That was a fantastic sign of things to come. I can't wait for the conversation. But first, let me just say I'm Charlie Rivkin, the chairman and CEO of the Motion Picture Association. And I'm thrilled to be here at South by Southwest for a pretty simple reason, which is that our studios and the Motion Picture Association itself are all about creativity and technology, and this is the place where they meet. I even went to South by Southwest in Sydney 2 years ago, which was quite fun as well. But the entertainment business is changing. As you guys know, it's changing every single day. It's clear that our audiences want great stories, they want different platforms, they want different lengths, and they want to see things on different screens. I got to say, when I joined the Motion Picture Association 7.5 years ago, one of the first things that I did was bring Netflix on board, because we saw that the world was changing, that the industry was changing, and we need, as the association that represents the studios, to get ahead of that change. It was actually controversial at the time. Netflix, of course, is now an absolute core member, and I'm proud to say that, as we speak, all 7 Motion Picture Association member studios either have major streaming services or are programming for major streaming services. The world has absolutely changed. And Amazon Prime Video is really going to help forge the next great chapter in film and television and the way people consume and make content. And all of our studios, like Amazon, bring the past, present, and future to the table, unafraid to not only embrace the unknowable, but shape the unexpected. So I'm incredibly proud to, I will say that in December of last year, I can't tell you how proud I was to be able to welcome Amazon Prime Video and Amazon's MGM Studios to the Motion Picture Association. It's really going to be a transformative change. You guys have been part of the association now just for a few months, and it's going incredibly well. All of our other studios, Netflix, NBCU, Disney, Paramount, Warner, and Sony, many of whom are represented here in the room today, could not be more thrilled. And that happened because of the personal support of not only Mike Hopkins, but Jen Salke and Courtney Valenti. And that's why it happened, and I'm very grateful for that. So I just wanted to thank you very much. So let's get started. I don't think that Jen Salke probably needs an introduction. I think everybody here knows exactly who she is, but I'm going to do so anyway. My apologies, Jen. But Jen, of course, is the head of Amazon MGM Studios. She's a longtime force in Hollywood, from her early days at Aaron Spelling Productions through her time at 20th Century Fox, Universal Television, and NBC Entertainment. She now oversees nearly every facet of a wide-ranging and growing operation: series and film development, production, theatrical distribution, marketing, licensing, and obviously so much more. Jen leads an incredibly impressive team behind so many major hits coming out of the studio that literally it would be impossible for me to mention them, but you got a glimpse of them a few minutes ago in that fantastic video. And Courtney Valenti, head of film, streaming, and theatrical for Amazon MGM Studios, another veteran of the studio world, a longtime Warner Brothers exec, I think maybe 33 years at Warner Brothers or something close. And
that dates me.
Well, me too. And she supervised franchises like Harry Potter. She greenlit iconic films like Barbie, Elvis, The Color Purple, and many, many more. And Courtney is a powerful voice on everything film coming out of Amazon, taking the helm of the team that curated everything you can think of: tentpole productions, prestige films, blockbusters, and more. And Courtney, by the way, is the perfect person for the Motion Picture Association to have on the South by Southwest stage, because she's a native Texan who grew up in Washington, D.C. She keeps her ties here with Texas, largely here in Austin, because she's on the board of the LBJ Presidential Library. And on a personal note, as I've said to Courtney often, as head of the MPA, I take pride in going to work every day in the house that her father, Jack Valenti, built. So I think Jack would smile at knowing that you're now on the board of that company. But Courtney, welcome. Mike, Jen, and Courtney are a powerhouse trio coming off a banner year for Amazon Prime Video and are now ready to take the studio to new heights. So with that, let's get started. And Jen, let's start globally. I know that the international landscape is a big part of your studio strategy, in particular the way Prime Videos has such worldwide reach. And so when you think about new film ideas, are you trying to make local stories for local audiences? Are you making local stories for global audiences? How does it fit with your overall tentpole strategy? How do you leverage off of the incredible international and global presence that Amazon has?
Well, whoa, hello. I'll hold this back a little bit. Amazon in general is a customer-obsessed company. And so customers replace with audiences, and we are obsessed with audiences. So our focus is on global audience journey, which means we look at all sections of the incredible Prime Video subscribership that we entertain, hopefully often. And that includes entertaining them in local countries all over the world. So we are everywhere, and we have teams on the ground who are developing slates that are local slates across film, television, unscripted, sports, everything, and also licensing across the board to create a journey for those customers, let's say in Italy. At the same time, those same customers / audiences are enjoying and watching all the global tentpoles that we promote globally and promote within their individual country. So you're really looking at feeding the journey through multiple pipelines, the local, the global, sports, licensing, originals, and so on. So, and now channels. So they really have a plethora of choices to be able to tap into, which is, I think, a big differentiator for us.
Does the show creatively get produced with a local audience in mind to start? And if it looks like it has themes that can cross borders, you do it?
So we would say the big win is something that's made for local and works globally. And I see my team, our team here in the front, and our amazing, I said beautiful, talented and beautiful head of marketing, Sue Kroll. There's nothing to read in there. And Julie and Tammy, they're all here who oversee, all of our global marketing, PR efforts across the board. And what we do is we look at the local shows early on, and we and films, and we make a determination on a group of them strategically if we want to lean into those as global shows or movies. So then we'll get into making sure that we are, having global marketing assets and all of that. But the win of having something expand outside its home country, like Maxton Hall or the Culpa Mia series series of films, is the gold ring. I mean, you'll be seeing us seeking out to have more of those successes. But if it doesn't work in the home country, it's not really a good strategy. We want them to make it for customers in Spain, if it's the Culpa series of films, and then see it just explode globally. That's the win.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, and we're seeing more and more of that nowadays, I think, throughout the industry. Yes. Well, sticking on big Amazon and its impact and working in such a company, Courtney, let me ask you, Amazon corporate is Amazon's in general a data-driven company. And so how does their analytical capabilities, and I don't want to say algorithm, but their audience predictability measures, how does it impact the creative process? And is the creative process here different than the creative process at Warner Brothers as a result?
People ask this all the time. And the reality is, first of all, what's so exciting about being at Amazon MGM, is it's this wonderful alchemy and combination of legacy entertainment people like Jen, myself, Sue, Julie, Verdon Sanders, who runs series, with the power and the innovation and the boldness of Amazon. And so you get this 1 + 1 = 5. It's completely energizing every day because it's bringing the best of all of those worlds together. So to answer your question specifically, we do take in data and research at all the time on every decision we make. But then in the end, why, frankly, I think we have jobs is because we're supposed to be bringing our own gut instinct and judgment and creative conviction, not only our own, but we respond to the creative passion of filmmakers. So there's nothing better than sitting in a room and being around one of those glorious creators and hearing them talk about their vision for something. And it might not fit with data and research. And yet you get that thing on your arm where you get so, the hair stands up on your arms and you're going, oh my God, I got to be in that world. And so in the end, that supersedes everything, because you have to, the really bold decisions any of us make, or any of the shows or movies that any of us have been involved in that were real breakout successes, they couldn't have been predicted by data and research, but data and research were important components that you took in.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think that people always ask me, I'm going into my 8th year at Amazon Prime Video, which is crazy. But the question I most get asked is like, are you relying on data for every single decision you make? Do you feel a disconnect between parts of the company that don't understand creativity? And I never felt that. From the moment I came in, this Prime Video is born out of a passion that Jeff Bezos had to bring entertainment to Prime members, and voracious reader, like huge fan of storytelling. And it really permeates the culture. Even if you're sitting in a room with the head of finance in Seattle, they just want to talk about their favorite movies. So the culture is not what one might expect, just on the face of it. And creative conviction really rules the day. But you have to be right a lot, which is another Amazon principle. So if you got plenty of conviction and you're wrong all the time, I don't think we'd be sitting in our jobs very long. So you could be wrong sometimes, though, because you want to embrace risk. And those are all part of the principles. If you ever read The Amazon Way, you can quickly thumb through all the principles. But we really live on those principles, and they're based on risk-taking, standing up and being like, I made a huge mistake. This is why. We ask people in interviews when we hire people, what is the biggest mistake you ever made, and what did you learn from it? So it really is ingrained in the culture, and we always sit down and we take all the information we can, and then we look at everything, and then you have a creative gut to say, the data says this, but we believe in our gut that this is going to perform like this. And that's the swing for a hit. It may work, it may not. Luckily, we've had some good examples of it working, and so people listen to the gut, and I guess we'll be here as long as the gut kind of leads us mostly in the right direction. It doesn't have to be all the time, and it can't.
By the way,
be.
I just want to do a shout out to Jen and Julie, because when I first got to Amazon, we were in post-production. I had nothing to do with it, which is a massive hit that they had. Saltburn. And there's nothing about Saltburn that you could have gone in an algorithm or data, right? But that was a bold, wild, amazing movie that turned out to be a huge hit for this company. But it was all in creative conviction.
There's
just
so
a
many
belief.
examples of that across the industry. I remember at NBC Universal, like, people were like, This Is Us is beautiful, but it's a small, quiet family drama, and it becomes a cultural, iconic show. And so it's, and there's just a lot of the hits are examples of that.
Well, it's fascinating for me to hear, because there was a time when there was meant to be a big cultural divide between Northern California and Southern California, between technology companies, entertainment companies. But now all the entertainment companies effectively are technology companies. Yep. And look who they're hiring. They're hiring people that ran wildly successful traditional media who are now involved with new media. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Speaking of such things, let's talk about theatrical exhibition. So I've read widely that you are not only embracing theatrical, both of you, but you're also attending CinemaCon for the first time. I'll be there as well. I'm thrilled to see you there, but who else is thrilled is the exhibitors. They are so happy that Amazon is part of it. And so I guess my question to you both is, what does this say about your ongoing sort of theatrical exhibition strategy? And is this a recommitment to theatrical? And I have a side question on there as well, which is, how do you decide what gets released theatrically?
Well, let's start with the commitment to theatrical, which is real, significant, and beyond exciting. Sue and I come from. I'm going to date us both. We worked together over.
The key word is, what did you say? We are veterans.
When someone says your legacy, it means you're old. So we spent 30 plus years at Warner's, and we're deeply, deeply committed to theatrical, just personally. So it's so exciting to be at a company, and one of the big lures, aside from working with the fabulous women here, is knowing that this company is committed to theatrical. And I think real evidence of it is not only the ever-expanding slate that we have. By 26, we're going to probably have 12 to 14 theatrical films. But it is the recent announcement that you probably all read about of how we're building up our own international distribution and marketing org. And that's real. And that's, we've have an incredible relationship with our current partners, Warner's in international distribution, but our slate's expanding. And the only way to really fully service a slate of our size is if we need to own and control our own destiny. So we're beyond excited that we get to do this. And so I think it's real evidence of the commitment, financial and sort of philosophical, to theatrical that this company has. And you had a second question. Oh, about how do we decide? Well, again, we're doing something that no one else in town is doing, which is we're releasing with bold, real commitment to theatrical, big eventized streaming, and we're not making a gajillion movies in either level. Like everything's meant to be very curated and thoughtful and have impact. But what we do that I think is really significant is, and thoughtful, is we sit and talk with our filmmaking partners before we go to greenlight, and we have, an in-depth and real and informed conversation with them about where do we believe and where do they believe, but together, where is the biggest expression for their film? And it might be theatrical and it might be streaming, and there are many factors that go into it. And again, there is no crystal ball, so part of what we're doing is we are taking information that we have about the marketplace, but we're also making our own gut judgments, right? We ask ourselves, does this demand to be seen in the theater? Will people be driven to go to the theater, or will they prefer to see it at home? And certain genres, definitely audiences are showing a desire to be at home to see certain genres, and others, types of films, demand you go to the theater. So I would hope we could get away from the conversation around it's a value judgment, as a one release is better than the other, because it's not. I think, the campaign and the commitment that, Sue and her team put behind Roadhouse and Idea View, that's incredible. And by the way, our filmmaking partners were thrilled with what happened. So our desire is not only please and satisfy the audience, but it's also to make our filmmaking partners feel like they got the best, possible treatment to bring their movie to the world.
Yeah, I think it is a big difference that we will still market and create a moment, however we do it and however the team creatively recommends that we have, some events and some screenings and word of mouth and social, and we do all these things. We don't just throw, it's like, if you don't just get the love if you're being released theatrically, and if you're a streaming movie, good luck to you. It's like, there's so much care and thoughtfulness put into the campaigns through marketing and PR, and the filmmakers feel it. There's a reason that we maintain the relationship with Anne Hathaway from The Idea View, or Sacha Baron Cohen from Borat, or Michael B. Jordan. There's a reason that those people come back for more, because they actually feel it, even though, as we all know, everybody wants theatrical, and that becomes the thing that's, the most, that's the brass ring for filmmakers. But once you make a film with them and you have this moment on streaming, they're surprised that they actually feel it permeate their lives every day, and that they have touched an audience, even if they didn't get to sit in a room and see it.
So I can't talk generally about Windows because I don't want to be violating antitrust anytime soon. But the MPA doesn't have a consistent view on this nonetheless. Every studio makes their own decisions, and depending on their own assets and strategies. But I've heard you guys talk publicly a bit about how a theatrical release will actually help the streaming success. Is that true?
We've definitely seen that. Recently, but we've seen it not only in movies that have been released when they hit their Pay 1 window. For instance, this last year, both Beekeeper and Blink Twice, which were theatrical releases for us, Pay 1 in terms of the windowing, when they hit their SVOD window, they wildly overperformed, and one would think it has to do with the fabulous Sue Kroll campaign that they got.
We saw it with Air. We saw it with Red One. We
Yep.
saw it. We do see that because hopefully you create that same kind of moment, and then you ride the wave of that excitement.
But Charlie, I just think what's important to bear mentioning is we value deeply our partnership with Exhibition. We are in constant conversation with them. it's a mutual, it's a symbiotic relationship, right? That we have to respect that relationship, and we want them to be happy, and we're also always trying to innovate and figure out what's the best way to move through the marketplace. But exhibition is incredibly important to us, and we're really respectful of that relationship.
That's why you see the commitment that we're making.
Well, I appreciate that. The Motion Picture Association represents the 7 studios are film, TV, and streaming. And so it's not just film. But I find that the communal experience of being in a movie theater is almost unreplicatable. It's funnier when you're watching a comedy because somebody you've never met before is laughing hysterically to your left. It's scarier when you're watching a horror film and someone's screaming out from the audience. And it's rare to have that kind of communal experience nowadays in the country. And I think a lot of people, I think it's going to continue for a long time is my hope. And certainly I'll be saying that at CinemaCon as well.
We hope so.
We hope so too. So another question for you is state incentive programs. There are nearly 40 of our 50 states that have some type of incentive to try to get Hollywood, to try to get studios like yours to make movies there. And they do that for a good reason, which is, if a major motion picture were filmed here in Austin, our statistics show that it would inject about $1.3 million a day into the local economy. And the people we hire about 2.5 million people hire. We support 2.5 million jobs in America every year as an industry. And the people that are supported by the industry are not necessarily the stars on the red carpet. Of course, they are too. But it's the below the line players. It's the construction workers, the electricians, the makeup artists, the hair and makeup teams, the dry cleaners, the caterers. And it's a huge economic boost for a local community that everybody wants to take part in. But it's a competitive business. And I'm just wondering from your vantage point, when you make a decision about where to make a movie, how important are incentives to that decision? Is it driven mostly creatively by directors or others who have reasons for wanting to be in a certain city? Or do the economic underpinnings of incentive programs tip the scale?
Well, they definitely are important. And as we look at trying to control budgets for bigger imaginative stories that we're trying to tell, and filmmakers' big appetites for spectacle, as we look at theatrical, there is a need to control cost. It's just a reality. And so it is much more incentivizing to be able to set the production somewhere where we'll have that benefit. There's of course a lot of overseas production that's happening right now. We're in Atlanta, we're in LA for a few shows. We're definitely in New York too, but we're hopeful that, we'll start to see more production return to the US and be able to, benefit from some of those incentives.
But in the meantime, you are making a lot of shows here in the US.
Yeah, we are definitely. We're shooting a lot here. There's more and more pressure on the biggest, most expensive things to find, the most economically responsible place to shoot those things. And obviously we consider with filmmakers on creatively what those spaces need to feel like and look like. But the bigger the enterprise, the more we're looking for some relief on the budget.
But it's worth noting, tomorrow we are premiering Accountant 2. We shot that in California and Los Angeles, and we have a movie with Chris Pratt next year coming out theatrically, Mercy. We shot that in LA, and Crime 101, our movie with Chris Hemsworth. And we're shooting Verity, the Anne Hathaway movie with Dakota Johnson and Josh Hartnett in New York. We want to be here.
Yeah, we're shooting Fallout season 2 in Los Angeles moving from overseas. So there's a lot of exciting production here, but there should be more, and there should be more in Los Angeles as well.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know how many of the audience members were here, but just before we went on stage, there was a panel about incentives, and they were talking about a Texas incentive and how there's some interest in making that happen. So maybe you guys will be back here shooting one day.
That would be great. We love Texas.
Fantastic.
We're here if you want us to talk about slates or talk to anybody.
Fantastic. Listen, Jen, 2 years ago, I wasn't here. I was in Sydney, Australia, at South by Southwest. But I saw a video of you interviewing here, and you talked about a women-driven slate. You talked about content driven by women creators and stars, and you spoke about women leadership in an industry and in storytelling, and the challenges that come with it on and off screen. How have things changed since then? What's the state of that?
That was with Priyanka Chopra Jonas.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so exciting. I was looking at the date on that, and it was in 2024. So the slate that we're here in Austin this weekend to celebrate is a very female-forward slate. There's some amazing titles. We have Simple Favor 2 premiering tonight. We've got a movie with Nicole Kidman called Holland. There's There's a lot going on for women with us this, in addition to The Accountant 2 tomorrow night, for women. And when I got to Amazon, I felt like we were doing great with everyone calls it the Jacks, the Jack Ryans, the Jack Reacher. We were getting men, and half of those audiences are truly women, but they're kind of male audience forward shows and films. And we really felt like, especially as a female leadership team, which you can see here, you have multiple heads of the company here and departments who are all run by women. Thank you. Something I feel very proud of. And for us, it's about representing the audience. And I felt like we weren't really doing a good job creating a addictive, destination for women on Prime Video. And so a few years ago, talk about data, you have all this data to support the action, franchises and all of that. Those are easier decisions because we know how many people show up for those, and it's an amazing audience that shows up. But for women, there's less of a data point on big female-forward investments in film and television series. But this team, the development teams back home, just everybody put together an amazing slate, and internationally too, that was sort of geared toward women, while not abandoning our dad TV, all our dudes in the subscribership. But it really, all that material is coming in, and we are so excited about it. So to me, it's a bit of a full circle moment from when I talked to Priyanka about the vision for that we were all pushing forward, and then kind of where we are today. So fingers crossed, women come in droves, and we make even more content in film and television for women.
Speaking of underserved demographics, can you talk a little bit about House of David and your thinking about that type of programming?
Yeah, we love House of David is doing really well. Has anybody seen it? Yeah, so House of David, I strongly recommend it. It's not your average, sort of biblical story. It's incredibly cinematic. It's obviously rooted in a biblical story, and it's an incredible cast and performances, and we're seeing a huge audience reaction to it. It's been out, I think, a week, right? And so I highly recommend it. And yeah, we're going to continue to lean into the faith and family audience, and we really have a strong strategy, not just for the U.S. in that regard, but globally, and we're seeing a very strong performance from Latin America and different parts of Europe as well. So there's more in the works with that team, and also just with other originals, film and television.
Well, sometimes I get this feedback in Washington. It seems like an underserved community, and it sounds like you're really...
It definitely is, and we hear them, too, as an audience that feels like they aren't being heard on what the types of movies and film they want to see, and we're very committed to that.
So Courtney, you now have the full library of MGM content in your portfolio. By the way, statistic that matters to the MPA, but maybe not anybody else. The MGM was part of the Motion Picture Association from 1928 until 2005. So it took a 20-year hiatus, but now it's back thanks to you guys, which is pretty cool. But that iconic studio and catalog, helped. It was there at the beginning of Hollywood, and it helped define what Hollywood actually is. It was the creation of Hollywood. So, what's your strategy for? I don't want to say maximizing, but for utilizing this extraordinary asset, and how does it impact your future production plans? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, we spend, Jen, Julie, myself, and the rest of the team, we spend a tremendous amount of time talking about this. It's thrilling to have access to this extraordinary library, and we're focused in earnest developing and making movies based on classic IP from the library. Right now, we just recently, Jen greenlit Thomas Crown Affair, with Michael B. Jordan starring and directing. He's got an incredible reimagining of this world. Roadhouse was also from the library, which was obviously, thankfully, a very big hit for all of us. We're developing other great titles like Addams Family. We also have Pink Panther with Peter Rice producing and Eddie Murphy starring that we're developing. So we're spending a lot of time figuring out, it's always that discussion of which titles are sort of sacrosanct, and you go, oof, I don't think we really should be, seeing that again, it's too precious, versus other ones that might not be as well known, but have great stories or concepts at the core that are worth reinventing. So not all of our slate is going to be IP or from the library. It's about finding the right balance for the portfolio and the slate. And so we care deeply about, IP storytelling as well as grand, bold, original storytelling as well. We want a balanced slate.
But we're looking at our, MGM library in a way that is very discerning. So I think the proof is in the pudding. You didn't see us buy the company and suddenly just put a whole bunch of remakes into the hopper. We basically, we set a very high bar for is there a vision and a reason to revisit this title? And it's not reverse engineered, like let's have a fire sale on like who wants to do Thomas Crown Affair, like raise your hand. No, he came in with a burning vision to tell that story through a slightly different lens, introduce an entire new audience to it. It's a title that's obviously been around a very long time. So we really think about that and the kind of why now, and what are you trying to do with this? Are you thinking about the fans of that the fans of that piece of that film or television show in a way that we're going to lean way into that. We don't want to alienate. We're not making right or left turns with things in a way that will alienate the fans. And we've really learned and honed in on how to do that well, I think, through Lord of the Rings and Fallout, and trying to take IP that's beloved and has a very strong, rabid fan base that's very vocal out of the gate, and try to make sure that we think of them first and foremost. And I think we've done some pretty good work there, so I trust that we'll continue to do that with the rest of the Bond library.
So it's not as simple as 10% of the slate each year needs to be drawn from the MGM catalog or something like that. It's you're constantly looking at the library and thinking, does it fit the times?
Yeah, it's a sensible approach of like, obviously we own this library, we made a huge investment in this company, and now we are MGM. And so we look at those assets through the lens of not volume, but quality. And no one's breathing down your neck to do something that wouldn't be successful. So we need the creative components to make that happen.
There's some big franchises to come, I know. Look, you have a full slate of films here at South by Southwest, including Another Simple Favor, The Accountant 2, Holland. Can you tell us a little bit more about these films and why you brought them here?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, this is a fantastic festival. It's a great place to be. Last year we were here for Roadhouse and Idea View, and the audience reaction was so amazing. It was electrifying to be in the theater for witnessing both of those movies being exposed for the first time to the real world. And so it's exciting to come back here. This is a movie festival. This is a place for movie lovers. So these are movies that right now happen to be opening soon, and it felt part of, I think, Sue's creative strategy about how to best bring them to the world was to give them this as their launch pad. And we're excited. We're excited to be here.
We have our social teams here and all our PR teams, and everybody is here kind of with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. We are not a cynical bunch. Like, we've all sat in the screenings for, the test screenings on Simple Favor and Accountant. But like, I literally have like, my heart's kind of racing to be in the theater tonight. It's back to what you said, like share the moment with the group here in Austin and see how everyone's reacting, and then watch it expand like as the campaign takes off.
That's really fun. I look forward to seeing it. With them, I should say. Back to technology for a second, and this is kind of a complicated question. Hollywood has survived now for 102 years, or MPA has anyway. Hollywood's older than that. But in spite of threats that are always existential to us, when the DVD was created, I remember even your father was saying that it's the end of movies. It's the end of everything. When digital cinema, that can't happen when there's digital cinema. When the internet was, it became a thing. That's it. There's no more movies. There's no more television. Our distribution is going to be destroyed, and yet it wasn't. And Hollywood continues to adopt technological changes. AI seems a bit more complicated, and I think AI is going to be ubiquitous in everything that we do as a society. But I guess my question to you on AI is, what are some of the constructive things that you can do in filmmaking to take advantage of it, to ensure that AI is always used to enhance human-driven creativity?
That's at the center of it. And for us, it's across the company. So if you're in any room at Amazon, maybe another surprising thing, we're looking at this to be able to deliver even more for our customers and for audiences all over the world. So taking it to the studio front, we are leaning into AI where it will help enhance a vision of a creator or a filmmaker. And this is ever evolving. It's obviously new. We're all in it together. But we choose not to be like, don't talk to us about that. We choose to be curious and to work with our filmmaking partners on figuring out the right ways and the most responsible ways to lean into the technology. And then there's certainly ways through production where the technology can actually help our investment go longer. And we can say to the filmmaker, don't turn down your ambition and vision for this. You can actually turn it up because these tools exist for you. There's nothing, for us that we're trying to have, do something where we would take the power of storytelling out of storytellers. That's not what we're about.
Do you find writers that using ChatGPT as inspiration to maybe break writer's block or help with story?
I don't know if there are any writers in this room, but I happen to know that many, many, many are using this technology, and they don't necessarily all talk about it, but they talk about it with each other, and they're curious and they're learning, and I applaud that. If you're curious about how this can enhance your, imaginative quest to find an idea or figure out a way to visualize something that you're trying to put together in your head, you should be leaning into those things. So I also find that our creative partners are, not all of them, but many of them are leaning into this technology in some ways way more aggressively than we are.
I think it'll have a big impact on special effects, visual effects, rotoscoping, other types of...
Everything. It's a pretty interesting time we're all living in, right?
No question about that. Here's another technology question for you. I was reading an article on YouTube recently, and now that it's really the biggest platform, the billion viewers on this platform, and I wonder, as user-generated content grows, how you think about that as a studio. Does it make you want to have a UGC arm? Is it another streaming war that's coming on UGC versus curated content?
I don't know. Something to think about.
And no one does.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth thinking about.
It definitely is.
So in and I know we don't have much time left, but I'm curious, if you were starting, both of you guys, there's a lot of people that are here in the audience and here at South by Southwest who are aspiring filmmakers and aspiring executives. And with all that you've both done and with all of your experience in the industry, if you were starting out today, either as a filmmaker or a future executive, what kind of advice would you offer these people in today's world? Is there anything that you've learned in your careers that they could benefit from that way?
I mean, I still think everything is about, this is a hit-driven industry that we're in, and so hits will come out of original visions and thoughts that people have. And so if you're in a creative side of things, the closer you can stay to be curious, to look at the world around you, to be in touch with your gut, and to be able to explore big ideas, big ambitious ideas, I think there's so much possibility for that. And I think, all these companies are, there's obviously a lot of choices out there as far as for consumers to engage in entertainment, but I still think at the end of the day, you see the things that break through are the things that really touch and pull a big audience in, and one that cares deeply about the story. And it's, being in touch with your creative gut and being bold about following. You have to really care about this stuff. You have to love it to be able to stay and be veterans and do this thing. You got to really care about it. And so figure out what you really care about and then go for that really hard, whether it's whatever aspect of entertainment it is.
It's interesting. I spend a lot of time with, I sound like such an old person. I spend a lot of time talking to young people when they come in and they want to go, well, what should I do? I'm always trying to push people to have the patience to go maybe do the job or the work that might not be as glamorous or exciting, but just gives you experience and exposure. I think being around people who do have a lot of miles under the wheels, and you see how they do it, and you get to see how they handle problems and how they navigate situations, is just invaluable, and it will only enrich your ability to not only make informed decisions, but to maybe pick different avenues and really figure out where do you want to live within the larger entertainment ecosystem. So I don't know, I find a lot of times people just want to already be there, and there's something, I jokingly tell this, or not so jokingly, to people, like, it's Aesop's fable, Tortoise and the Hare. The tortoise tends to win out. Just do the work, don't try to race it too fast, get experience, live, and that will enhance whether it's your creative process or even if you want to go down the being an executive, it's get exposure.
And that is so, I was reading this article, I don't remember, it was in one of the industry trades about, this group coming up, this cohort who've come up during COVID, they're working more remotely, they're sort of resisting coming back to the office. They've really missed out on the opportunity to work communally and to solve problems and to deal with really hard things together and figure those things out over long hours and days of stressful things when they come up, but also celebrating all the good things. And I think there's been some isolation in it. I think the article took an angle of like they've sort of lost their ability to adopt maybe more agent-like behavior, which I'm not sure we need to have. But it was more like, we noticed it at our place, like how are you able to have those people who are coming up in their career gain the confidence from being in these rooms and coming up with an idea and having everybody turn in that direction, or even thinking of the idea. I remember being young and thinking of this idea like we should do this, and then I didn't say it because I didn't have the confidence, and then someone else says it who's got more miles on their career, and then I'm like, oh, I knew that, like that was the right thing. So then those building blocks start to put together your confidence, and confidence is such an important part of it. But if you're not in it, like really doing scary things and having scary conversations and putting yourself out of your comfort zone, you really you're not getting the right stuff of like what you need to actually come through the other end and go, this is me, this is what I have to contribute, and I have confidence about it.
Was there a spark for you in your career that, why did you choose to go into entertainment? Did something happen? Was it a movie that you saw? Was there an experience that you had? What caused that for both of you guys? I'd love to hear sort of what the Sirens
I haven't
call
asked
was.
that in a really long time. I was very much into creative writing when I was young. I won some essay contests. I was really into like just spending time in story. And I thought I wanted to be a writer. And I went to NYU and I majored in economics and writing for film and television. I'm not even sure if my team knows that. But I then was like, I'm going to be a writer. And I went and got a job at William Morris just to make money as an assistant. And I was writing like shows and movies, like trying to spec things out. And I realized very soon by trying that it wasn't that I couldn't do it, but I didn't enjoy being alone. I didn't enjoy the isolation of a writer's life. And I thrive off people and doing things together with a team. That's my biggest, happy, most productive place. So I realized I'm not going to be a writer, but I am going to be close to this industry. And so then I kind of moved through doing that, but wanting to just be as close as I could to the storytelling.
What about you, Courtney?
So I was, look, I grew up loving movies, passionate about them. I mean, like the list is long of what I watched in the MacArthur Boulevard movie theater. But I was an English and economics major. Economics, I was scared I wouldn't get a job after college. And I know, well, we're all kind of fearful of like going down our English path. But I went astray and I worked on Wall Street for 3 years. I worked at Lehman Brothers, and I will never forget being kind of worn down and exhausted by it all. And all my Wall Street colleagues were, even in their free time, reading Barron's and financial reports, which I was not. And whenever I had a free moment, I would go to the movies. And I will never forget year 3, went on the West Side to see Bull Durham. And I walked into the movie theater cranky and pissed off, which is not my normal state of mind. And I love the movie so much. And I walked out of the movie theater, like just elated with the bounce in my step as I was walking home. And it hit me that all I was doing, of course I was bored out of my mind. I mean, I learned a lot on Wall Street, certain things that were helpful later in the movie business. But I learned, as I was walking home, I went, oh my God, all I'm doing is pushing money around for someone. And I don't, like, it doesn't matter and I can't see it. And I want to be able to be part of telling stories, because what happens is you get to move people. And if you could actually do something that moved people, I mean, wouldn't that be golden? And seriously, that Monday, went in, told my boss, I think I made a mistake and I should really start all over again. I was 25 at the time, so you could start over. Mind you, that boss went on to start BlackRock, so, and he actually offered me a job to come with him. But you know what? They're all really, really, really rich, and I am really, really happy. So, good end.
I went to business school knowing I didn't want to be the investment banker that I was before business school, and decided, what if there was a job I could do that I would actually love? And I was hired by the great Jim Henson. In the audience, we have Juliette Blake here today, who used to run television for Henson. And people always ask me, even though I'm the business and policy side of the business, what my favorite movie is. And I resist answering because I have 7 studios and I'd rather not have to go through that. But I do love movies and have always loved movies. And what I tend to say is The Muppet Christmas Carol. And the reason why is that, if you haven't seen it, it's a really good movie, but because it saved our company. Jim Henson died, and Brian Henson, stood up, and it was the first time that Kermit had ever been done by anybody but Jim. It was the first time that our company had done anything without Jim. And we not only did it, but it survived, and it gave energy for us to continue to grow and expand. And it was just so it was so exhilarating. It's a false answer though, but it did have a big impact on us. We are in the Henson lot with famous Kermit the Frog dressed like Charlie Chaplin. Yeah. But on a favorite movie level, you guys probably don't answer that question either, but I'm curious, are you willing to share it with your audience? Is there one favorite film that you would put at the top of that list? 3, how about 3?
Well, I'll do the most influential movies on me. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I can't even count how many times I've seen that. Of course, The Godfather. It's like, in, what is that? The Nora Ephron, her great line, it's like how men all can quote from The Godfather. But Godfather, I grew up in that household where you watched it. It was like, that was A Christmas Carol, except it was The Godfather. And Reds, I mean, that's a great one. Like the best. So those, but my list is long. I just curated 3 out of like 20.
Yeah, that's a tough.
What about you, Jen?
Well, now that made me want to go back in time. So my favorite movie growing up was The Sound of Music. I performed it many times. There's no video, thank God. I'm going to actually just pick something really recent that I love that we made. I love the movie The Idea of You with Anne Hathaway.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Listen, back to Amazon corporate, and I'm not sure if they're answering these questions either, but increasingly what we're seeing in the industry is sports as a major form of entertainment. Yes. And we're also seeing streaming services streaming live programming. The SAG Awards were on Netflix, and I know Hulu, recently was involved with streaming a major live event. What's your take on the future of sports programming and how it intersects with everything that you do?
Well, it's huge. I mean, the NFL is huge for us. We have all kinds of sports, basketball. We have a lot of live sports on the service. It does incredibly well for us. It's another big pillar of our entertainment. We also are, looking into. We have movies around sports figures and documentaries, and the film slate is really incredible this year. It's really the fruit of the work for the past.
Oh yeah, and after the, I'm just looking at Julia right now. After the
Julia
Hunt with
Roberts,
Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield and Ayo Debris, the really brilliant Luca Guadagnino's directing, and what else? Oh, G20 is coming out very soon with Viola Davis.
We can see you sort of, like your faces are all blurred.
Oh, and Heads of State this summer. Sorry, Idris Elba, John Cena, Priyanka Chopra Jonas. I mean, what's exciting, I think, about the film slate, both theatrical and streaming, is each one really feels like, boom, at the movie moment. And that's what we are striving to really, look, we want each movie to have impact and feel like it demands being seen. So I hope we're right.
And on the television side?
Yeah, we have a lot of big returning series coming up. And what's our big Q1?
Fallout 2 is what I'm obsessed about.
Fallout 2 is a big one that's coming up. We have what? Yeah, our female slate. I mean, we could talk about that. We have Better Sister, which is a fantastic two-hander thriller. We have Haven, which is another kind of. There's a lot of female thrillers, some psychosexual antics going on. Scarpetta with Nicole Kidman and The Bondsman. We have something this weekend? Oh, good. Yeah, Kevin's here for The Bondsman. So there's a really full slate coming up.
I just have to do the shout out for Fallout because in my house, they're on they've watched the series at least 3 times just in anticipation of the next season. So it's
Season 2 is so good. Any fans of Fallout in here? Oh, good. If you haven't tried it yet, jump in and come in and watch season 2 also.
Just in closing, to say that the industry's had a tough time the last few years. Yeah. COVID was existential to the business, and it was tough. A lot of the viewers went to streaming, and we were able to continue to tell those stories and continue to make productions, but it was hard. And then the strikes, were difficult because we are one of the most unionized industries in the world. Our union and guild friends and partners need to work side by side with us, and the prolonged strikes had the unintended consequences of reducing production, and that reduced the product for the exhibitors and for television, and a lot of people lost their jobs. And we start recovering from that, and we get hit by the fires in Los Angeles, which were really devastating and absolutely horrible. But at every stage, we're the most resilient industry that I've ever seen. And we come back, we survive, we thrive. I personally am not sure that peak production, which happened before COVID, is achievable, but it'll be a level of production that's quite substantial. And I would say the state of the industry, therefore, is promising. And to hear from Jen and Courtney, and to hear all the amazing product that they're doing, and their innovative ways of approaching things, and they're being able to lever off of the big corporate assets that exist within the Amazon universe, positions them for extraordinary growth. And it's I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have them inside the tent at the MPA and gaining knowledge from their perspective, and as the entire industry continues to evolve and change, but change for the better.
It's been great being part of it and joining that first meeting with all the various members and talking about all these things that the industry is facing. And we went through some of that together through the strike negotiations. But now to be in this forum where we can all move forward and try to tackle the issues with you and the organization has been great. And I'm looking forward to more. I know we both are.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Courtney Valenti and Jen Salke. Thank you for being here today. Much appreciated.